Hello everybody and welcome to On My Watch List, a show all about photography on YouTube. Each week we choose 3 videos that we think should be on your watch list. And this week I'm joined by my co-host and my co-pilot throughout this series. He is the Han Solo to my Chewbacca, the Maverick to my Goose. It is, of course, Julian Baird. Hi, Jules.
Hi, Chris. How are you?
I'm very well, mate. How are you?
Yeah, very good, thank you. That's quite the intro there. I do quite like that. I mean, hopefully you'll keep that going from episode to episode to see how creative you can be.
We should try and keep that going. So the pilot went really well.
Yeah. I think it's been reasonably well received. We certainly enjoyed recording it. So we've listened to a lot of the feedback and we've taken some of it on board. So hopefully there'll be people who saw the pilot will notice a few minor changes to this one, episode 1, I think we're calling it.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of those changes is that we're going to have a viewer's choice video. So this is a video that's chosen by you, the YouTube audience. So that's one of the things that we're introducing.
Yeah, that's quite exciting, actually. Sorry, yeah, isn't it? Sorry, I was going to say that's quite exciting, actually, because it's good that, you know, we've got us and we've got our guest presenter who you're going to introduce in a minute, but it's good to know what everyone else is watching as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And we want to try and make this as interactive as we possibly can. The other thing is that, of course, you and I, we're landscape photographers and we tend to watch landscape photography videos, but this isn't just about landscape photography, is it? No,
absolutely not. We're looking at all sorts of videos, mostly around photography, but there might be some video type ones in there as well. Anything that's, I guess, creative that will help people either give them, you know, just to watch for fun or maybe to inspire their photography. And that inspiration can come from a lot of different ways, not just landscape photography videos.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Right, so shall we meet our guest presenter then for today, our first ever guest presenter? So this week's guest presenter is a professional commercial photographer. The last time I saw him, he was running up a hill in the dark with you, Julian. He is the thinking man's photographer. He is the YouTuber's YouTuber. Coming live from our Oxfordshire studio, it's David Dixon. Hi, David.
Hi, guys. Thanks for the intro.
How are you, mate?
Yeah, good, thanks. How are you?
I'm good, thanks, mate. I'm good, thanks. I'm gonna jump straight to it, David. You've been away from our screens for quite a while now. I
have, yeah. I mean, I think by my reckoning, it's probably over a year, really, since I properly did YouTube. I put the odd video out here and there along the way, but yeah, it's been a while.
Is there any truth in the rumour that it was a collaboration with Julian that made you quit?
Do you know what? I do feel guilty about that. It did seem to happen about that time, didn't it? It was yeah. Never collaborate with me.
It makes me a bit worried about this series, if I'm honest, David.
I enjoyed.
No, but that's absolutely true, isn't it? The last time I saw you, the two of you were running up Catbells. Yeah. In the dark.
Yeah. I loved that collaboration. I really enjoyed doing it. I loved the video that we put out, or the videos we put out, and it was just a great experience. Like that morning was fantastic as well. Started off kind of cloudy and murky, but then it just like brightened up. It was great.
It was a fantastic morning, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And I enjoyed, after we did the photographs and the chat at the top, and we got that run down and we were running along the lakeside. It was a really cracking morning, actually.
Yeah.
Maybe Chris, you could put a link for it in the video description below.
Yeah, absolutely, I will. Yeah, we'll make sure that goes in there. If you haven't seen that, I think it's great, and I really enjoyed it. And I was just there, kind of helping you guys out. But it was a really great morning, and I had a great time.
It wasn't the reason why I stopped doing so many videos. I can tell you that. So don't worry. No, it kind of coincided with a time where I think sort of behind the scenes and secretly I had given myself a chance on YouTube and looked at going down one particular path, how I could sustain my livelihood, as it were. And at the same time, I was building up my business, and at that point, my business just started to grow. It was really growing quite rapidly. And it just consumed all of my time, and you have to like make a payoff somewhere. And regrettably, because I missed making videos, I had to let YouTube kind of sit on the sidelines for a bit. Yeah.
Do you think you'll be back?
I do, in one form or another. I recently had a chat with Kim Grant. I don't know if you saw the video, but she asked me a very similar question. And the truth is that I've got a bunch of different ideas, and I've got thoughts about how I'll present things in future, but I just got to carve the time out. So I can't put any timelines or dates on things, but yeah, I think I will be putting videos out again in the future.
I think it's great news to hear that you're so busy with your business.
Yeah, well, it's good for me. It's tiring.
I can understand that.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's crack on with the first video. So, Julian, would you want to introduce your pick?
Yeah, thanks, Chris. So I've picked a video by a chap called Ian Worth, and it's called Landscape Photography in the Mountains. Now, we all know YouTube is awash with landscape photography videos and people wandering off places and taking nice pictures and shooting epic B-roll and doing montages to music and trying to make everything seem exciting. But in this video, the thing that's really piqued my interest is Ian's taken quite a different approach to the way that he's presented the video. So there is no music, there's no dialogue either. In fact, it's just all sort of background noise, the noises that you'd hear in the environment. And while you might think that that's a little bit stale, and possibly people have done that before, where Ian makes it interesting is he's got these little text dialogue boxes that pop up. So it's as if he's having a conversation via text with a person somewhere else, and he has this little conversation about where he is and what he's doing. And I find that aspect of it really interesting, and it's actually quite funny in places as well. Some of the pretend text interchanges are quite amusing. But that kind of unique side, that unique bit aside, obviously he's got some really nice pictures there. I think it was shot in Wales. I'm pretty sure it was. So that's a really nice bit of it, and it's shot and produced really well. Some really nice sort of B-roll to really kind of make you feel that you're there with him, and because it's just all sounds of the environment, you can really get involved with it. And I think one more unique thing, or as I say unique, the thing that you don't see very often is where he's put the pictures up, he comes up with a screen that's got his field notes on it. So it's not just a typical shutter speed, aperture, but he talks about what he liked about the picture, what he didn't like, and it appears as a kind of a virtual notepad on the screen. So for me, it was just a really interesting take on a sort of a typical landscape photography video that you might see, but it's just got a slightly different twist about it. What did you think, Chris?
I really enjoyed it. I mean, I do enjoy Ian's videos anyway. I think he's an excellent filmmaker. But I think the thing that kind of stood out for me was just how atmospheric the video was, without a presenter babbling over all the time, or without the intrusion of music. I felt that I'm much more connected with the area that he was trying to show throughout the video, and I thought that was really, really well done. He really kind of drew me in. It was one of these videos that, once I sort of realised he wasn't going to be talking in it, I thought, well, this is going to get a bit boring, but it wasn't like that at all. And I felt myself being completely absorbed in what he was doing. And there was one little magical moment that really stood out for me, and that was when he was boiling up some water to make some coffee, and he had some jets in the background. And I just thought, that was just one of those priceless moments that he was able to share with us because of the way he was putting the video together.
Yeah, that was a oh, sorry. I was going to say that was it was quite a cool moment, and that's where the little bit of humour comes in with the text conversation as well. So it's well worth watching because the dialogue between him and his virtual or his pretend friend was very humorous at that point with the jets going by.
Yeah.
And what did you make of it, David?
I thought it was great. I felt that he has rewritten the landscape photography vlog, but it breaks a lot of the conventions that people have gotten used to without the dialogue. And we've seen similar things before, but and like you said, he's got a lot of original ideas in there. They're all really, really brilliant. But I think what was great about it for me was that it's like, without breaking the fourth wall, without him addressing the camera in any way or talking to the viewer, you do get that feeling of absorption, like you were saying, Chris. You really feel like you're there. You feel like that he was alone there in the mountains, and he was just having this day out, and maybe it's the same for you guys, but I felt that has been very similar to some days when I've been out just on my own. I've gone out on a nice hike, I've got my stuff, sit down and have a rest, I have a bit of a think about stuff, and it captured all of those things. And I felt that for me, it was probably more inspiring. I'm saying this now, but it's more inspiring than a lot of what you do see, where you've got somebody who's gone out, they're talking to the camera and they're saying stuff along the lines of, hey, I'm in the great outdoors having a good time, and you should do that too. And whilst that is like the intention is inspiration, I think Ian's worked to inspire me much better in that sense, because I just felt like it could have been me on that sort of trip out.
Did you think it was a brave video to put out, if you know what I mean by that?
Yeah, I do. I think in the sense that like anyone that's making YouTube videos is probably trying to guess what the algorithm's going to do or what kind of reception the video is going to get. And this is obviously very different to what Ian normally does. It's very different to what a lot of people normally do. And you feel like that YouTube would be favouring all the gear reviews and like tips, you know, the 7 tips to that kind of thing. And this isn't any of those. It doesn't fit that bill in any sense. And so, yes, you could call it brave because he didn't know how it's going to be received. But because I was thinking along these lines, I just had to look at the views, and you compare it to other stuff on his channel, and it's got some of the higher views of the videos that he's got. And so you could say it was a gamble that paid off, or that it was just like a bit of a passion project that he wanted to do, and that paid off too. I mean, Yeah, I mean, I watched it again today, and I had a look at the views and the work. It was well up there. But I think, he might have been brave and he had an idea, but he also the way he executed it. I mean, the technical aspects of what he's done. I mean, we know because we make videos, and you get the old saying that audio is 50% of the viewing experience. And what really draws you into this video, makes it so atmospheric, makes you feel like you're there, is the quality of the audio. He hasn't scrimped on it and just gone for flashy B-roll. The audio was very crisp and clear and atmospheric, and that's what helps you draw in. So, if you're a potential YouTuber or video maker out there, this is a great example of how powerful audio is to make a good video. Yeah, he's put in the time and the effort to capture that audio, to do the sound design and the edit. Yeah, it's a great piece of work.
Yeah,
absolutely. Well, on that note, David, I think we'll leave that one there. We'll move on to your pick. So do you want to introduce us to the video that you've chosen for this week?
Yes. So okay. So it's by Andrew and Denea, and the title is "The Least Talked About Most Important Photography Tip." Okay. So yes, you might be able to kind of like gauge what it means from the title. It is very descriptive, but I think the reason that I chose this video is, one, because like Andrew, I think has a very deliberate way of talking that's very engaging, and he also has a kind of more of a philosophical look at how he approaches his photography. But like the channel overall, it covers like a lot about kind of cameras as well and gear, but he does it in a way that a lot of other people don't. Okay, he shoots Fuji and I don't, but I think that's irrelevant. But the reason I picked this particular video is because he kind of introduces it in a way that immediately grabbed my attention. So he talks about something that many people have covered in the past, and it's about this narrative that gear matters in some sort of way. And then he goes on from there to talk about how people feel as a photographer or when they're learning photography. And the main points that he has are that that narrative that gear matters, he said, is almost a fiction, because it's something that a lot of us want to believe. When we see people making gear review videos, then it's almost that we think that they're saying that gear does matter. But when you really listen to those videos or watch them, then nobody ever really says that gear matters and that this camera is going to make you a better photographer. It's somebody that likes gear, and I think It's the same for a lot of us. A lot of people who like photography like the cameras, they like the tech side. But it doesn't mean to say that they think that that is making them a better photographer. And I think that that's a really interesting point that he makes. And it's I guess it's kind of like this assumption that we have. Like, I think that somebody that makes gear review videos probably does it because they love gear, not because they think it makes them a better photographer. And that is quite a difference, I'd say.
And what was the point that he went on to make at the end about allowing yourself to think of yourself as a photographer?
So it came from, he discusses the photography courses he's been planning and giving. And it's about how people learn and approach photography. And it's more along the lines, I think that the point is better made in the video where he talks about if you're capturing photographs of your family, or if you're like the family photographer, like that's your unofficial title or your unofficial role. And it's more about how you would approach capturing a photo. So if you were going to take a photograph of your family, there's a nice scene, it's a family gathering or something like that, if we can have those again. But would you take just one snap and leave it, or would you actually start to work the scene in a way? And would you find a better composition? And he asks the question, how many photographs did you take, to some of the people that he's taught? And if they're saying just one, then it's more of like they're encouraging them to take many. And actually, it would segue into the next video, which I'll come back to. But it's about if you consider yourself to be a photographer, then you almost wear that hat. If you consider yourself to be learning photography or not a photographer, then you might just take that snap. But if you put the mindset that you are a photographer and you are there to take photos, then you will work the scene and you will look for different compositions or better light or a better angle. And it's about, if you say that you are a photographer, then you start to behave like one. And that is the distinction between being one and not being one. I feel like I've kind of minced his words. It's much better to go and watch the video.
It's very eloquent, isn't it?
Yeah, no, I think you summed it up brilliantly, David. And going back to that point about where he talks about gear, he made an excellent analogy where he's talking about a writer. When a writer writes a book or a story, no one cares whether he wrote it with a pen or a laptop. Just like when we actually really think about it, when you look at a photograph, wherever that might be, you never think about really what camera it was taken with, or certainly the vast majority of people don't think about what camera it was taken with. I really like that. I'd never thought of it that way with the writer analogy, but I really connected with him talking about that. Are you a person with a camera, or are you a photographer? And it is very much a mindset, and he also talks about, I think, imposter syndrome as well. So yeah. I think, if anyone's actually got any sort of doubts about where they're going with their photography or where they think they are on the journey, this is a really excellent video to watch, because it can really get you to think and have that mindset change. And I made a note there, guys, so I was going to ask you, do you remember, either of you, when you made that transition from I'm a person with a camera to actually considering yourself a photographer, or was it not until you guys became full-time professionals that you really considered yourself a photographer? I'm just curious.
For me personally, I really noticed it when I transitioned into becoming a professional photographer, and I think that it was significant because I knew that if I went into my first paying job and say, "Oh, hey, I've just started my business and this is my first job," I wouldn't have felt confident. The client wouldn't have felt confident, and so it was about that presentation of myself. To say that I am a photographer, then it did make me feel like a photographer, and that was definitely the point for me. Even though I've spent my entire life capturing photos and doing it as a hobby, I guess I would have considered myself just I would have said like enthusiast photographer, if anything.
Yeah. What about you, Chris?
For me, I think my experiences were very, very different from Andrew's and from David's. I think when I found photography, it was a real light bulb moment for me. And there was something kind of that had been missing, I think, from my life, that creative outlet. And so I felt like a photographer almost immediately. Whether or not I had the skills to back that up, photography almost immediately from when I bought my first DSLR became a huge part of my life. And yeah. Right, okay, so on that note, we will now jump into the final video, and this is going to be the viewer's choice video. So this is the video that has been chosen by you, the YouTube audience. What we're asking you to do is to send us the videos that you watch and the videos that you've really, really enjoyed. And so if you have a video that you would like to see featured in On My Watch List, then there'll be details in the description below about how you can submit your entries. This week's viewer's choice comes from Barry Conway, and he's chosen The Secret World of Macro by Simon Booth. And Barry writes, I find Simon Booth always to be generous, patient, informative, and gently challenging. His recent lockdown content has been very much about how to see what you can photograph and photograph what you see on our very limited local walks. So in the video, Simon spends time out in the outdoors photographing close-ups of flowers. And he was doing that handheld. So just when you thought macro photography couldn't get any harder, they've taken away our tripods. Now, Simon is his profession, he's an ecologist, so he's very, very knowledgeable about the animals and plant life we have here in the UK. And this is something that comes across in his videos as he explains that. So there's a bit of that in a lot of his videos as well. So David, what did you make of Simon's attempts to shoot flowers handheld?
I really enjoyed it because I've been doing something very similar, and I think that, as you can see from social media and YouTube, then a lot of other people have been trying macro recently, and handheld. Well, under the right conditions, I mean, like I was going out for walks with my camera when we were in lockdown and we were allowed out for our exercise. I had my camera with me. It was handheld, like you, Chris, and I was doing some macro photography of bluebells on the walk as I went. And so I already knew that it was possible, and you just got to make sure you got the right settings. And what I really liked about Simon's video, and actually the first thing before I get into the photography, was just how Simon really approaches his videos with a lot of consideration. He always calls them films, for one, and so you know that he's got that mindset. And that opening shot of where he walks up to the gate and opens the gate, and then the sunlight cast on the gate and it glows up orange. I would be willing to bet that that was not an accident. I think that he probably thought about that. But that's Simon down to a T. So, but when he comes to photograph the, I think it's Forget-Me-Nots handheld, then yeah, he makes a really good point, and it kind of draws back to what I was saying about Andrew's speech in the video I chose, is that he's basically talking about it's trial and error. And he delivers it in such a way which is very relatable, because he says that he just gets there, he tries to find groups of flowers of 2 or 3, and he just kind of moves around. He says he's been lying on the floor for so long that his neck is hurting. So he's obviously just been trying different shots and different points of view. And he's having a great time doing it. You can see
he's being very being very honest in the video when he was saying it was trial and error, isn't it? I don't know how you two find it, but every video that we present is a version of reality. It's not exactly what happens on a shoot, is it?
Yeah, I mean I agree with that, because it's quite often that people will allude to have worked to the scene, but you never really see it, or it just says like, I found this subject, I've tried a few different things, and this is the composition I've settled on, when in reality, everyone's experience is a lot more like Simon's.
And Jules, macro is something that you're starting to get a lot more interested in. Did you pick up any tips from what Simon was saying?
Yeah, so I certainly did. I mean, I really like Simon's general approach to his films, as you pointed out, David. And I'm particularly interested about these macro ones because I got myself a macro lens this year. Not because of lockdown. I was planning to do more macro photography anyway. But I like his approach. He says I'm looking for shots that are artistic and natural, and I think that really sums up his approach and his style of pictures. But the thing that really, I guess, caught my eye, particularly when it comes to looking for macro shots, you look at the shots and they're absolutely beautiful, and you think these must be in some wonderful Everglades somewhere where there's hundreds of flowers. But then you get this wide shot of them, like you say, kneeling down in a bush beside a path, and there's maybe only about 3 or 4 flowers there. I mean, a very typical countryside path that you might walk down that you would not give a second look at if you're out for a walk. But yet he's managed to have the vision to look at that scene, position his camera and perform all the technical aspects of it as well, to get a really compelling shot. And it just kind of, you got to think to yourself, I don't need to go to the nearest bluebell field or the big poppy field or a nature reserve. There's stuff on your own doorstep. And for me, that was really inspiring, especially I think when this was filmed, is a bit more heavy in the lockdown, that, you know, perhaps there are compositions and beautiful, as he says, artistic and natural images to be found everywhere.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's it could be at the end of your garden path. It could be like in the car park of the place that you've gone to visit. It just kind of reveals to you that there's always going to be a subject in the world of macro, at least. But if you drove somewhere and the weather doesn't turn out to be as great as you wanted it to be, then if you have your macro lens or your macro tubes with you, you don't have to leave the car park. You could just find dandelion at the side of it.
But you know, it's having that artistic vision, that understanding and being able to execute it, because you know you might come across these scenes, but you still have to have the skills to do it. And again, he shoots medium format, but he never ever really talks about the camera. He talks about he might have a macro lens on. It's all about the intent and how to, like you say, how to work the scene, and by not freeing yourself, by not using a tripod and just moving in and out. I think no matter what skill of photography you are, I think there was definitely something to take away from that video.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it'd be quite confusing with... Oh, sorry, Chris. I think it'd be quite confusing if he was going to start talking about his settings and what have you with a medium format camera, because he might be, to get the depth of field that he had on some of those images, he might have been at like f/18 or something like that, you know. And it just wouldn't, it doesn't, it's not relevant really. I think he approaches it in the right way.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Barry, who submitted the video, made the point that, you know, Simon does have some very nice gear, but he doesn't make a big deal out of it in his videos. Anyway, that's all that we've got time for in this week's episode. This week we featured videos from Ian Worth, Andrew and Denea, and Simon Booth. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank our guest presenter this week, David Dixon. David, thank you ever so much for coming on the show.
Oh, thanks, Chris. Thanks, Jules.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate you having on.
It's
I
great
know
to
you
see
probably
you
would do. Yeah, so I know you probably wouldn't do this, David, but I want to give a shout out to your 365 project on Instagram, which I've been following from the very beginning. Again, maybe Chris can put a link to that in the show description, the show notes below. But that's an absolutely fantastic series. I take it you're still doing it?
I am, yeah. I'm a bit behind in posting as of today, but yeah, I'm continuing, just making myself creative every day.
I'm loving that, and so anyone who's watching this, definitely go and check that out.
Yep, I'll definitely do that, Jules. I also want to say thanks to you, mate, for all the hard work that you do behind the scenes in pulling this series together.
No problems at all. It's all fueled by glasses of wine.
And finally, I'd like to thank you for tuning in and watching, and hopefully you'll join us the next time.
Thanks now.
Bye.
See you later.